What's up? I can't hear you. How about now? Can you hear me? No? What the fuck? How about now? 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 Nothing? You got everybody muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
It looks great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go to here.
Perfect. Move your coffee. Yeah.
Okay. Ah.
Whoa.
Okay.
That's wild.
Okay.
That looks really good. Yeah.
You see every ingredient, yeah?
Yep. It looks awesome.
Okay, sick. Ha.
I'm keeping Phil hidden.
Phil, this light makes your eyes and face look crazy.
No,
Can you see my boogers?
he just looks crazy. There you are. Cool.
Okay.
So,
So there's 36 people coming?
yep.
Cool.
Actually, more. Like 3 signed up like 15 minutes
Holy-
ago.
Holy smokes.
So I don't know if they have the ingredients, but you feel
I'm just
ready?
gonna do like this. Ready. I'm gonna take a breath.
Okay.
Like I need some flowers.
All right, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and admit everyone, okay?
Cool. Is it creepy if I do this? The elevator.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, let him in.
Okay. And then I can't. Okay. Figure that out. All right.
Are you using a computer?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna turn my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yay! Hi, Katrina.
Hi, and this is my son Avery.
Hello.
Hey, Avery.
How's it going?
Nice to see you. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
There we go.
Where's my?
Hi, Iris.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
This is my husband, Brian.
Hi.
Hi,
Nice to meet
nice to meet you. Hi,
Hi, Kayla.
Kayla.
Hello.
Hi, Tequila.
Hi, Iris. How are
Hi,
you?
Chiquita. Oh, this is so fun. Hi, Jeff Dunlap, JD.
Hey, Maria.
That's my brother that I strong arm to register. All right, let's see. Let's get everyone in here. Yay! If you don't have your video on, we would love to see you. Possible? You don't have to, it's not a must. And then, yeah, it'll be a little bit easier for us to see what's going on. If you have questions, let's see. 2, 8, and there we go. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for coming. I think there's more joining, so, and I'm somewhat seasoned in Zoom, but still working out a little bit of a learning curve, especially recording. So welcome everyone. For those of you I don't know, I'm Maria Kelly. I am the founder and executive director of AMOR Healing Kitchen. We are located here in Charleston, South Carolina, although I think there are some of you that are with us that are from elsewhere, so welcome. And just to tell you a little bit about AMOR, if you're not familiar with us, so we basically we bring good, healthy food to people who are either facing maybe a chronic illness or recovering from surgery or going through cancer treatments. So kind of a wide array of clients that we serve. But it is really anyone that could benefit from some good, nutritious food while they're healing or recovering, because it's really what we always want to do when we know someone who has fallen ill is bring them food. And a lot of times the food that we bring them might not be the best food for them. So we kind of take care of that, and we deliver a big bag of meals to them once a week. And we also invite teenagers into our kitchen. to teach them culinary skills, nutrition, the value of service and giving back to their community. So we have teen volunteers that come in alongside adults, and Justin, who you will meet in a moment, guides them through the art of cooking, really. And that's what we do, is we bring people back to cooking. At one point, we all knew how to cook. I don't know what happened. So our intention for this cooking class series is really to bring people into their kitchen and either discover or rediscover a love of cooking, simple but whole food, using whole foods. Oh, hi, Kate. And really to get inspired in your kitchen and learn new tricks. Justin is a whiz at teaching all kinds of new tricks. That's why I'm also going to cook alongside of you, because I need dinner tonight too. And I really learn something from Justin every time I cook with him in the kitchen. So, and it's really fun. So we encourage you to share this class with anyone you know who might be interested. It'll take place the third, is it the third? Yeah, the third Monday of the month. It is free of cost or donation based. So some of you donated, thank you very much. That helps keep the engine running. But really we wanted to just offer it free of cost so that anyone can access this class and really learn how to cook, or just be re-inspired to cook again. We'll also be launching a guest chef cooking class series. That will be the first Monday of the month starting in February. And we're inviting people in the community, chefs, or just anyone in the community that we look to for inspiration in the kitchen. So we'll be cooking it off. We'll be kicking it off on February 1st with Nico Callaganan of Mansueta's Filipino Food. I hope I pronounced his name right, Justin. But Justin and him are also doing a collaboration later on this month, a dinner together. So you can check that out on our social media or on our website. And also check out the guest chefs that will be joining us throughout the spring and throughout the year. Let's see. So how this actual class will work, if you're not familiar with Zoom, it works best when there's not a lot of microphones on. So everyone, I think almost everyone is muted. So if you could go ahead and mute your phone or your computer if you haven't already. There just sometimes is some feedback if you don't do that. And then there's a little chat box. If you're using a laptop, I'm not sure what it looks like on the phone, but probably somewhere along the bottom, there's a little chat that you can click on, and you can type your question or comment right in there, and I'll be reading those and kind of relaying your messages or comments. But I used to be a high school teacher, so watch out, because I might just call on you to read your question out loud to the class. And that way it can be very interactive. So please ask questions. Is definitely more fun. And it's just like, see, so Justin just kicked off the chat for everyone. But that way, it's always like that. You think that like my question's a dumb question, but really everyone in class is wondering the same thing that you're wondering. So go ahead and ask it. Justin's really good about offering substitutions if you don't have certain ingredients. So feel free to ask that as well. And then if you are on a laptop, if you go to the top right, you can click on speaker view. And that way you'll see Justin the whole time while he's cooking. You can see, you'll get a much better view once he starts slicing and dicing. If you're on gallery view, then it's like Brady Bunch and you get to see everyone. So, so that's just some things about how Zoom works. So I think that's all I have for now. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them or send them in. Is there anyone that's not in Charleston that's joining us right now? My brother that I forcefully signed up. He's in Colorado. Is there anyone else that's joining us from somewhere else? All right, so it's all Charleston. Well, welcome. And I'm so excited that we all get to cook together, even though it's COVID. COVID can't keep us down, everyone. So we'll be really excited to bring these to in-person cooking classes, but at least we have this for now. Super exciting. So I think that is all I will say. And I will hand it over to Justin.
Hi, everybody. Everybody, am I good? Everybody can hear me, see me? Okay, cool. I'm Justin Boer, culinary director and chef at AMOR Healing Kitchen, and I'm so stoked to get to lead a little cooking lesson for all of y'all. Pretty cool to do it through Zoom and without people in front of me. It was interesting because typically it's always teenagers in the kitchen at AMOR. So it's a little different, but I've got a bunch of stuff set up here in my kitchen. This is actually my whole kitchen. I have like a very minimalist approach to my kitchen setup. I like to keep it simple and let kind of like the recipe and the way that I cook at AMOR in life is to let all the ingredients do the talking. So everything that we do at AMOR is plant-based, and that being in lieu of just really trying to provide as much extra special, deep, depthy nutrients into someone's diet that is in need. A lot of times veggies get put on the back burner behind a meat or grain or, whatever it is that you're eating. They're kind of a second thought. But for me personally, the veggies are the part that gets to shine. They're the most colorful. They're the most vibrant. They're the most different in types of varieties of different vegetables. There's like more colors of just peppers than there are types of meat, So variety's the spice of life. Like I want to have as much different types of vegetables in our diets as possible. And then also we're including tons of different, throughout the series, how to cook with seeds, how to cook with herbs, when to put them into your dishes, how to season correctly, how to chop things better, how to, two of my rules in cooking is to have 5 different colors for every dish. And if you've got a bunch of veggies or just different things, 5 different shapes. So if you kind of keep that baseline rule, I feel like that almost always helps fulfill all of your needs without being nitpicky. Sure, you can look in and have a bunch of different other stuff to look at and be nitpicky about, but a baseline, 5 different colors, 5 different shapes. And that's a really easy one to do in today's recipe, which is going to be a really simple stir fry. We cook stir fry in the kitchen probably 3 weeks out of the month because it is such a versatile recipe. And hold on one second. Okay. Is my mom in here? No? I just texted her. She said, I'm in my kitchen. So I don't know. Maybe she'll pop in. I was really hoping she was going to be in here. Hopefully she makes it. But stir fry being a versatile recipe, the sauce itself that we'll be making today is like the base sauce for stir fry. It's typically a cornstarch, a sweetener, which we're going to use maple syrup, or you can use brown sugar as a little bit more traditional. But in trying to move away from more processed ingredients, we are we use maple syrup in the kitchen. And then it's going to have a liquid, which is going to be water today. You can also use a broth if you have any veggie broth. That'll kind of add a little bit of extra oomph. And then you can go from there and soy sauce, excuse me. So those 4 things together are your like baseline sauce. And then from there, you can add in lots of different things to create these different recipes. So like at AMOR, we'll do a simple stir fry, which is kind of like your classic sweet and sour, sticky kind of brown sauce on veggies and rice with tofu. And then from there, if you go for like lemongrass and ginger, you add those into your sauce and boom, you have like a lemongrass ginger stir fry. Or if you want to go for a spicy side, you add red chili flake, maybe some sambal. You can kind of completely alter it that way. Or if you want to get real different, you can do like pineapple, orange juice, and do more, and tomato paste. Those together with the sauce makes more of like a actual sweet and sour. So that's kind of how we work in our kitchen, is building blocks of what is our baseline recipe and how can we take that simple base and then alter it with ingredients that we have seasonally and that we get donated to the kitchen, which is something crazy and different every day. We get a lot of donations from our community gardens around town, from Charleston Parks Conservancy, from Whole Foods, from some schools around town, such as what's the middle school? Oh man, I forgot. On Johns Island. Maria, help me.
Hot Gap.
Hot Gap. Through Fields to Families, another organization that helps with providing vegetables to people that are in need. They actually go glean farms as well as take care of the garden at Hot Gap with the teens there. So we kind of get like a black box, if you would. If you know anything about like cooking school or chef school, you have a black box challenge where you get a box full of ingredients and you just have to go. So we get that every single Wednesday and Thursday before our cooking. All the teens come into the kitchen. So these versatile recipes such as stir fry, you can use anything in them. So today we're going super basic with things that you can easily find all the time in the grocery store. So we've got red bell pepper, broccoli, some yellow squash, and onion. And then we're going to fry some tofu. Find a lot of people have a hard time with tofu. I am going to show you a really easy, simple way to cut it and cook it. You might notice that you end up looking at it and you're like, oh, this is like what I get when I get hibachi or, a stir fry from an Asian restaurant possibly. But just small little things like how we'll cook that tofu are going to change that up. So does anybody have any questions before we kind of get started? Questions are super key so that I can break up my talking and also like help you with specialty things that you might want to substitute in vegan cooking. It's like that's what I'm best at, is how to use what I have. I can pretty much, especially from working with AMOR and just my own personal simple way of cooking and with what I have, I can cook anything with the most different array of ingredients, as well as know what to substitute when you don't have something. As well as from yeah.
Iris, did you have a question? No? Okay.
Well, if you do, you can type it in. Feel free to just unmute yourself and chime in also. And I'll just stop and answer some questions. Yeah. Sounds good? Cool. Let's get started.
Your mom's here.
All right.
Where
Everybody
is
shout out
she?
to my mom.
She's still logging in. Mama Booer, we've been waiting for you.
I thought it started at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry.
8 o'clock? Who's cooking dinner at 8 o'clock?
I don't know. That's what I thought this afternoon. I said, man, I have to cook 2 dinners tonight.
Turn your video on.
Maybe it's plus. No, that's plus all the people.
Okay, so
I
to
don't know.
get
I can see you though. That's the important thing.
okay, yeah, that's good.
I'm
So
sorry.
we're just about to get started. We just kind of went over AMOR and what we do. My mom's been in the kitchen cooking with us before, so she knows a little bit about what's going on. So let's go over some ingredients to begin. So I've got a couple spots around my kitchen that I'll be moving my phone to. First up, a little overhead of all our ingredients. Right here.
Okay.
Hey, Mom, could you mute yourself? Hi.
Mute myself. Okay.
I can mute you. I can mute you, Haley.
Think
There we go.
We got you.
Awesome. So starting out with our ingredients, we have a red bell pepper. We have our onion. We've got yellow squash and a broccoli crown. That kind of makes up the gist of the heartier, bigger portion of the stir fry. And then for our sauce, we have some tamari. So this soy sauce, tamari soy sauce is soy free actually. It's funny that it says soy sauce. But typically what we use in the kitchen is going to be coconut aminos. Coconut aminos in place of soy sauce have I think it's about 1/8 of the same amount of sodium as soy sauce does, and has an extremely similar flavor and effect in your cooking. So we use coconut aminos in the kitchen so that we're operating on an extremely low sodium diet. We find that in using that, as well as you'll see that we will only put salt at the end after we taste it. Tasting as you go is super important, so that you know every step of the process of the cooking, so that you can cook each individual ingredient and know how each cooking step affects their flavor. So we'll salt at the end. You probably won't even need any salt unless you're just a more salty palated person. So yes, low sodium. All of our dishes are found to be low sodium. And when you're cooking in the style that we'll cook today, like layering ingredients, layering flavors, building from the base up, maybe you'll find that doing that, you won't also need to add so much salt. So for the sauce, we have that soy sauce. We have some maple syrup here. And then I've got some garlic, cloves, and some fresh ginger. And then I'll have some water in here when it comes time. So the very first step is going to be, and then also tofu. So extra firm organic tofu right here.
Justin,
And
there's a question from Takita about the
Yeah.
coconut aminos compared to the soy.
Sure. Yes, Takita?
I think she's just wondering how they compare. How are they different? Yeah.
If you probably have tried them both. I've never heard of the coconut. I'm sure it's probably in the similar aisle, but I had it at home, so I didn't even look for it. What is the difference? Is it like really significant in flavor difference, or like the profile of it?
So the flavor, for me personally, the flavor profile is, one is going to be there. So like in terms of like richness and the umami that's gained from like adding soy sauce to a dish, or a like fermented soy amino, essentially, because amino acids, that umami is like what I'm looking for to add to the dish. And then, so soy sauce being from soybeans, and then the coconut, of course, being from coconut, you have a lot more sodium in the soy-based process. So even in tasting them side by side, you'll have a little bit less of a salty flavor, but so probably like the richness of the coconut aminos, possibly like a touch sweeter between the two, the coconut aminos being a touch sweeter. The coconut aminos, oh, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. The coconut aminos being less sodium, but having that rich umami flavor. That kind of takes place of where salt makes your taste buds pop, makes things, increases your flavor. I find that the coconut aminos actually kind of do that for you, where you don't need to add extra salt so that because it's already that flavorful. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah.
You want to know like the
I'm gonna have
process?
to try it now.
Yeah, it is like, I mean, I love doing that, tasting a super normal, like your Kikkoman soy sauce that's everywhere. Taste that.
This is more of it's this.
Yeah, Bragg's liquid aminos.
Right. So I know this is a little bit healthier than just your traditional soy sauce, but
definitely.
But now hearing you describe the flavor of the coconut aminos, now I'm like, I can definitely see that because I used a lot of coconut oil. So I mean, that adds a lot of flavor to your food. So,
definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Like even like side by side, the viscosity of coconut aminos is like a little bit thicker.
Okay.
And I think that comes from it having a touch more sweetness, like carbs in it, carbohydrates turned to sugar.
Yeah.
So I love using coconut aminos in tons of things because it just adds extra umami, like depth of flavor that sometimes can get missing in a simpler vegan dish where you don't have as many amino acids, which you find in meat a lot of times.
Sounds yummy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Bragg's is what I use at home a lot too, because I can just get those really big bottles of it and marinate or cook or whatever. Yeah. So also with our dish, we're gonna cook some rice on the side. So we're gonna get the rice going first, as it does take longer to cook. So I just have some Carolina Gold rice here. You can use jasmine rice, which would be more traditional to a stir fry, or basmati rice, or brown rice, or really anything. We use brown rice, a whole grain brown rice for all of our ingredients or all of our recipes at AMOR, in that it is kind of one of the most nutrient dense and rich of all the basic rice grains. So I'm going to use Carolina Gold. So I'm just going to measure out for me personally, I'm going to do a half cup. So all your rice is going to double, almost double in size, essentially. This particular rice being an organic Carolina, super special Anson Mills Carolina Gold rice. It is going to take 2 to 1 water to rice ratio. But if you're using jasmine or basmati, you might want to check the bag. Those being a thinner, longer grain type of rice, sometimes they are 1 to 1.5 water to rice ratio. So if you did a cup of rice, you do a cup and a half of water, or if you have veggie broth or what you would like. So for this rice, we're going to measure out our rice and measure out our water. And then I'm going to actually use some garlic and some ginger in the bottom of the pan, sear those off, or saute those in the bottom of your pot with a little bit of oil. And then we're going to put our rice in to toast the rice with those flavors and then add our water. So this is a process of adding a lot of complex flavors and into your rice. Like, so when you put the rice into your pot, the very first thing that it's going to do when it starts heating up is soak up moisture. So the very first thing that you can, if you can give it ginger and garlic and oil and toast it, it's going to give it this rich garlicky ginger and then almost like a nutty flavor from being toasted in the oil before you add your water. And it's a really quick process, and it's a really easy way to add tons of really good flavor into your rice. If you ever wonder why your normal plain white water rice doesn't taste as good as at the restaurant, it's because this is what they do. you want to always add some kind of flavor into your rice before you, instead of after. So I'm going to do, for me personally, I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of rice. I've got my 1 cup of water here. And then I'm going to take 1 clove of garlic. And I'm going to smash this piece of garlic. We'll go over smashing it when we get to that step for our stir fry. But so basically, you want to smash your garlic. When you smash garlic, it actually creates an enzyme process, or it starts an enzyme process within the garlic called analase or analase. I think that's how you say that. But basically, inside the cell walls, if you would, of the garlic, the thing that makes garlic so pungent and flavorful, and when you have it chopped and raw, like that smell, is the process of those enzymes starting to convert anil, which is ANNIIL, into analase. So after I smash it, it's actually also way easier to get the skin off of a piece of garlic if you smash it. I'm going to just give this a little rough chop. Doesn't have to be like extremely minced up, but you also don't want to get a giant piece of garlic in one bite of rice. You kind of want this to be able to spread throughout your whole dish.
Justin,
Yes.
real quick. Okay, so at this point we are sauteing the garlic, the ginger, and
Yes.
what else?
So just garlic, ginger, and we're going to do it in a little bit of oil. This actually wasn't on the recipe,
Right,
but
okay.
for dinner, you want to have some grain on the side. That actually also completes this dish,
Right.
stir fry and rice as a whole meal. Without the grain, you end up missing carbs in your meal that you need. And all of those things in terms of like digestion are important for each other to have a balanced meal. So I've got my 1 clove of garlic, and then I'm going to, so this is a pretty big piece of ginger. I'm going to cut off just like probably like a couple centimeters here. About like that. And kind of the same. I'm going to take the skin off. And also, again, we'll go over cutting this ginger and garlic a little bit with a lot more close-up view when we get to it in the stir fry part of the recipe. So I've got my ginger minced up right here. I'm going to add that to my garlic. If you notice that I have everything so organized like this, I really do cook like this all the time when I'm at home. This is how you cook to be clean, fast, and efficient. It's called mise en place. So before you start cooking, you're looking at your recipe or you're thinking about what you want to cook. You get everything out, organized, clean, so that each step of your process is going to be like on point and you're ready, instead of being like, oh no, I need to go look for this one thing. I want to add that. And then you come back and you've like burnt something. I'm sure we've all done that. But this is something that we teach in the kitchen, especially because how easy it is when you're cooking for like 20 to 30 people and a bunch of teenagers are doing it, and they tend to be a lot more messy. But if you instill this type of cooking organization and cleanliness at the beginning, then I find that they really understand and realize, and I hope that you would too, how much easier cooking with your everything ready to go is. It really just takes all the stress away. You're just ready. So I'm going to move my camera over to here so you can see my pot. Is that all good? So this is actually an induction burner, so I can be extremely temperature specific in my cooking. I really love using an induction burner, but I also have a little gas top here as well. At home, I pretty much only use this induction burner. I really, really like using just one and seeing what all I can make. And you would be amazed at how much food I can make, which is one burner. So you want your temperature to be on a medium low, so that you don't burn your garlic or onion. You just want to basically open them up, like aromatize them and then when you add your rice, it won't burn. You don't want any burnt flavors in your rice. You want it to be fresh and open. So I'm just going to do just a little bit of sesame oil in here, probably about half a tablespoon, about like that. I'm going to give that just a moment to warm up. Each step of the process, warming this oil up, waiting for it to be ready for your other ingredients versus just throwing everything in and then heating it up. So if you were to just go ahead and throw in your garlic and your ginger, the first thing that they're going to do, just like your rice, is they're going to soak up oil. So instead of them just soaking up oil and sitting in it, we want to cook them in the oil. So if you preheat the oil, then when you throw your garlic and ginger in, it will actually start cooking them, converting the carbs into digestible sugars. So my oil is ready to go. You notice I also have this little bowl with my spatula in it. That's another thing that I really love to have, is somewhere that my spatula always goes. Because what happens if you don't have somewhere for your spatula to go? You put it on the counter, you put it in the sink, you put it on your cutting board, and you just drag whatever you're stirring all over your whole kitchen. So that's where that goes. Everything has a place. So I'm just going to take and toss in my garlic and my ginger. Give it a little stir. It should immediately smell awesome. And then pretty quickly, if it's got a sizzle going on, you might even see it the garlic start to brown a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my rice in. And you'll immediately stir that rice. Really get it nice and mixed up. What I always say when we're stirring our rice or toasting our rice or any grain really, is you want to imagine every single grain of rice being 100% coated in whatever you're cooking it in. So I want to try and think about getting oil, the garlic, and the onion on every single grain of rice. So you do like a little quick stir like this, maybe you've got a big clump that does not have any oil on it. That clump of rice will actually cook completely differently than the rest of your rice when you pour your water in. It will soak up more water. And then when you eat it, so that'll have like a different quality of texture than the rest of your rice and kind of mess up your cooking process. You'll have some rice that cooked all the way through, some that might not, some that's squishy. So that's about how long that takes right there for the toasting of the rice. You might even see like a touch of color on the rice. So I'm gonna pour my water in now. I like to kind of pour it in slow and mix it. That it kind of ensures to me that the rice is not sticking to the bottom of the pan. Okay, So that's that. And then the next part of cooking rice is bringing the water up to a boil. So I'm just gonna increase my temperature, put a lid on, and then let that come to a boil. And then depending on what type of rice you're cooking, typically it's somewhere around 8 to 12 minutes, unless you have more of a darker whole grain brown rice or wild rice that might take a little bit longer after it comes to a boil for it to simmer. My rice in particular is about 10, 11 minutes. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil and then immediately turn it down to a simmer, and then I'll let it cook for about 10 minutes and check it. So how's everybody doing? Good? How's our pace? Is the pace good? Is everybody able to keep up with what I'm doing? Let me know if I get ahead. So next we'll go into starting to cook our stir fry. So the very first thing that we're going to make is our sauce. Actually, I didn't get the cornstarch out. Now that I say that, I didn't get all my ingredients out. Good thing it's easy to grab. So I'm going to get a little position going right here.
Justin,
Yes.
what are some substitutes for cornstarch?
So some substitutes for cornstarch, cornstarch being a thickener. Cornstarch is the most well-known of thickeners and easiest to get because it's made of corn. And corn is, used in a bazillion different ways. What's up, Phil? So you have corn. Corn is one of the most readily available ingredients on earth. Corn and rice. Oh, my rice is boiling. So somebody set a timer, 10 minutes. I can't time. My phone is my timer. But corn being readily available and easy to get, that's why cornstarch is your most normally found household thickener. You might make a roux out of it, or use it in battering something that you're going to fry. But some other thickeners that we use in the kitchen are arrowroot starch. We also use garbanzo bean flour. That's probably one of my favorites to use in place of cornstarch, in that it's coming just straight from garbanzo beans. And garbanzo bean flour is like so versatile that you can make savory pancakes, you can make non-savory pancakes. You don't have to add anything to it because it's already going to thicken. You just do water and garbanzo bean flour or chickpea flour. I don't know which one it'll say on the bag, but those are the same thing. Some other ones are, there's a lot of other like thickening roots that I would like get from the wild. Smilax root, if you like Cheney briar, smilax root, ground down. But yeah, it's a couple different ones. Did I miss any? Like I missed.
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Cool. Or if you're like in a quick pinch and you don't have any kind of starch, then you can just use flour, like whatever. It's totally okay. Flour, you just have to make sure that you really, really, really mix it in well to your sauce. Because if you don't, it'll just separate because it's a lot thicker, more granular than cornstarch. But done that plenty of times. So for our sauce, you're going to mix this all in one bowl and then we'll whisk it together. For the most part, this sauce, when it was very first taught to me, it's actually the very first like real homemade sauce that I ever learned how to make. My first cooking job was at a sushi restaurant, actually. and I was a busboy there. And one day, I was really good friends with the head sushi chef and was always super interested, but I was not really big into cooking or anything like that. I cooked a lot at home, but just the process and the attitude and the discipline that was like seen in the chefs there was kind of what drew me to wanting to do it. So I got to start working as a prep chef, which means that you make rice. I made rice every day for a year. And by making rice, I mean making like 50 pounds of rice every day, just constantly cooking rice. And then also doing a lot of other chopping, making sauces. But what I didn't really do was cook because of sushi, except for the rice. So I never really learned in the first probably year and a half, 2 years of working at this sushi restaurant. I didn't learn very much about making a sauce like this. And this sauce was kind of like a big eye opener for how to do that. And I just asked the kitchen chef who they're a little bit different than the sushi chefs because they're hot food and then the sushi. I asked him I was like, how do I make this sauce? You know, like what can I do to make a quick sauce at home? And this is what he showed me. And he said to just do equal parts of cornstarch, sweetener, soy sauce, and water. And you couldn't go wrong with that as a finishing, thickening sauce. So that's pretty much what we've got going on here. Maybe the amounts are a little bit different. It's also really cool when you taste and see it, how the cornstarch and the sugar like thicken, and then you're like, oh, this is how that sauce is made. That was my reaction. So I'm gonna do, forgive me if my measurements are not exactly what the recipe says. I usually, at home, I would just totally eyeball this. Pretty much everything I do, I eyeball the measurements. But I'm going to do my cornstarch first. I'm trusting you guys to have the measurements pulled up, ready to go for yourself.
If anyone needs the measurements, just ask me. I have the recipe. Getting a recipe out of Justin is like challenging, but I have the measurements if anyone needs it.
So I've got a tablespoon of cornstarch going in here. This is, and then I'm going to do my soy sauce. About like that. First thing I do, if you notice, every time I pick something up is I put it back where I got it. Super important, especially in a kitchen with a bazillion different things in it at AMOR. And with 20 people a week coming in that put things everywhere, it's definitely something I've become a lot more aware of trying to get everybody to do. And then I've got my maple syrup here. Pour that in. And then I'm going to put my water in here as well. At the kitchen, anytime that we use water, like for our rice that we just started, or for like this recipe with this sauce, we always use mineral broth. Mineral broth is basically a veggie broth that we also include dried mushrooms and kombu, or a seaweed. So big, thick, dried seaweed leaves. We'll put those into our broth along with probably about 35 to 45 other ingredients. Tons of seeds. So fennel, mustard, cumin, celery seed, anise seed, quite a few others. And then a lot of greens and the stems of the greens also. And then, you know, your other basic vegetable broth stuff like a potato, onion, garlic, some lemon. And then I also include some really like mellow herbs in, such as chamomile and lavender. So all of those things together creates this like just what I imagine to be this ultimate fighting mechanism that you just pouring into your body. That can pretty much, seep into every crevice and help with fighting off any disease, as well as building up your biome inside your body, essentially. So we use that in rice. We use it in when we cook beans. We use it when we deglaze pans. We use it in all of our sauces. That also adds a ton of flavor into everything that we do. So if you ever wanted to make a big batch of mineral broth and then you just put it in your freezer in little containers, then you could have that at home too. It's really easy to do, like once a month or something like that. But maybe if you're interested, send an email or a text or a message here with your email and we'll send you the recipe for mineral broth. That means I would have to write down all 50 ingredients. That will be tough. So back to our sauce right here. So I've got everything in there. I've got the cornstarch. I've got my sweetener, which is my maple syrup. I've got my tanginess, which is going to be my soy sauce. And then I have my liquid, which is going to be the water. I'm just going to give this a stir. Your cornstarch probably has got a little sticky to the bottom. So just make sure you're scraping on the bottom to get that cornstarch all away from and stuck to the bottom. Really stir it up really well to make sure it all mixes together evenly. And then we're just going to take this and set it to the side. And we're all going to remember, and if I don't, you'll remind me that we have to stir this again because some of the cornstarch will start to separate before we add it into our stir fry. So I'm just going to set this to the side over here. And then we're going to fry our tofu next. So first step is tofu. Tofu comes in usually a container like this or maybe plastic or wrapped, but it's going to have some liquid in it. So carefully cut around the edges of your container.
Justin, that was my 10-minute timer if you need to check your rice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so everybody else, check your rice. If you're cooking it in a pot like I am, then it's good to check it and give it a little stir from the bottom anyway, just in case it is possibly starting to get a little sticky at the bottom. But moving back to our tofu, I actually do have a timer. My induction burner has a timer, I forgot. So I've probably got about three more minutes on my rice. So I'm just going to do that. So you're going to take this tofu that you just cut open and carefully take a strainer such as this, and you're going to want to strain this into the sink and get all the water off of your tofu. So you should have a block like this. I'm just going to sit that in this bowl that I already had ready to go. And if you didn't, then grab yourself a bowl and just let your tofu drain into there a little bit. It'll definitely have a little bit more water. You can even give it a little press into your strainer. Or if you don't have a strainer and you just kind of poured it through your package into the sink, then you can just take a paper towel or a towel such as this and lay it down and press it with that to try and get some of this excess moisture out. So while we're letting that drain just a little bit more, just get a little bit dry, I'm going to heat some oil up in my saute pan for the tofu. So that's going to be a larger wide bottom, kind of like saute pan, something that has a flat bottom that you can put oil in to coat the bottom, and then we're going to fry the tofu in that oil. The key to cooking the tofu properly, especially for me in this pan that is obviously not a non-stick. If you have a non-stick pan, I would definitely use that right now. I just prefer to use this, and also this pan. If you don't have a deep wide bottom pan like this, and this also has a lid, it is the ultimate kitchen cooking pan. Shout out to my mom for getting that for Christmas a couple years ago. Vital. I cook everything in it, from soups to multiple things in the pan at one time because I have so much area. Steam things, yeah, you can do anything in it. And for the size, it's amazing. So basically, we're going to take that pan. We're going to turn our heat to about a medium heat. And then you're going to take your sesame oil, or if you're using a neutral oil, such as grapeseed oil, olive oil works as well. The only thing that you're going to watch out for when you're frying things in an oil like this is that you don't want them to start smoking. When oils start to smoke, it means that they've reached their smoke point, and the components, the cells and the components in the oil are actually breaking down into non-digestible things. I don't know what you call that, but it is not very good for you. Whereas oil that's not broken down like that is excellent for you. So you just want to be careful not to hit smoke point. So a more neutral oil like grapeseed oil, which is what I'm going to use right here, it's also a little cheaper than using, say, like a toasted sesame oil. This has a high smoke point, and I'm just going to take it. You can use 3 tablespoons, but this pan for me is pretty large. I wrote the recipe for more of a normal saute pan. I'm just going to take my oil and pour it in until there's a light coating on my entire pan. So about like that. And I'll show you a little trick here in a second to know when your oil is ready. Basically, you're going to splash the smallest amount of water ever into the oil. So I'll show you right quick here. I just like put my fingers under the water for a second and do like that. So nothing happened. That means my oil is not hot enough yet. Oh, excuse me. I just totally skipped a step. So I'm actually going to turn this off. Forgot to get our tofu ready. So the tofu is, for me, for this dish and for anything that you're more like sauteing or like frying, I like to cut it in triangles. Triangles as a shape are stronger than a cube, which is what most people go for when they cut tofu. You cut it, it's just like automatic. You don't really think about it. You're like, oh, this is a cube. I'm going to cut it in more cubes. But cubes actually tend to break easier than a triangle will in terms of a piece of tofu. So we're basically going to cut these into thin triangles. So this is my tofu. It's nice and drained now. I'm not going to put it in there. Just going to sit this here. I'm just going to use half of mine today. Yes, I do eat half a block of tofu per meal because I eat a lot. But normally this would be more like a full serving. Tofu in this recipe and in our kitchen is really vital for providing tons of protein. Usually, or like this tofu, which is what very similar to the tofu that we use, extra firm, so that it doesn't fall apart so much. And then usually one serving will be about 10 grams of protein, which is awesome to have added into this dish. So basically, you're going to take your tofu. You want to cut this into thin slices about this big, like that. And then I'm gonna cut that in a triangle. And that's a little bit big for me, so I'm gonna cut it in another triangle. So this is the size that we're looking for, about like that. So I'm gonna set that piece to the side. Now, how I really cut it is I would use this whole block like this. I would cut through each individual piece. So we're cutting into a grid patterns like this. And then I'm going to turn this up like this as one big piece. And I'm going to cut that first triangle that way. I'll give this a little spin. And then I'll cut this way. And boom, all of them are done. So saving a lot of steps, being more efficient. And you also get a more, you get a lot more of the same equal shapes. So we have different shapes and different colors between each vegetable, but you would like to have a lot more of the same shapes and sizes in each individual vegetable or tofu or ingredient, because those ingredients are going to cook at the same rate. Like say, you know, out of all these triangles, I just decided to have a couple that were way thicker. When I go to cook these and fry them, those are going to take longer, and it's really going to mess up the uniformity of my cooking process. So now that we have all of our tofu ready to go here, give your knife a wipe. We're staying clean. Put your rag back where you got it. Now we can go back over, heat up our oil, and then we're going to get ready to fry this tofu. Oops. Jake, I like Jake Podebear's picture. I don't know why that's up on my phone. It's really weird. So everybody's doing good? Any questions right now? Solid? Okay. So moving on to frying. Let's cut that oil back onto a medium temperature. Medium pushing more to the high side, but we're just always being thoughtful towards that smoke point so that we don't hit it and ruin our oil basically. But it's really depending on what you're cooking on. I'm cooking on gas, and I cook on this gas burner all the time. So I'm very familiar with like where my perfect temperature for frying things is. For someone with an electric top burner, it might be a little bit higher because it's going to get the oil hot, and then electric cooktops kind of like dissipate and come back on to keep a temperature consistent. If you're cooking on gas, I hope that, you know, awesome. Gas is the best. I kind of tie with induction burners actually. So, but sometimes I want a temperature in between the temperatures that are preset for my induction burner. So gas is the best for me. I can see, okay, so when I say that, I can see that my oil is almost ready. So when you're heating something up, molecules start to move. So if you can look at your oil, you can actually see it start to move around in the pan. That means that it's pretty much almost ready. So I can see that mine is like starting to move a little bit. So that process of getting a little water on your fingers and then boom. You don't want to do a lot. Just literally barely splash from your fingertips. That's perfect. It didn't like make an explosion or anything like that. So you just barely. Mine's just a little bit too hot, so I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. So for frying tofu, you want to put the tofu in slowly into the pan, into the oil using a spatula. If you have a longer handled spatula, I would use that. And anytime you're putting something into a pan with hot oil, you want to put it in and slide it away from you. You don't want to pour things in this way so that it splashes towards you like this. You want to always be moving away from you. Kind of like if you had a knife, you don't want to cut towards yourself. You want to always be moving that energy away from you. So I'm gonna get a couple pieces of tofu on my here, and I'm just gonna add them in, make sure that they lay flat. And as soon as you put them in, move them a little bit. The first thing that they're gonna wanna do is stick. But if you can move them a little bit, the oil will sear off the bottom so that they don't stick. And you want to try and get your tofu in here quick. So tofu, it has that water content that we were kind of waiting to get released. No matter what, it always has that water content. So be careful in terms of the water causing the oil to splash a little bit. So you can kind of see, I'm just kind of moving my tofu around a little bit. I like to give my pan a little shake. That kind of lets me know which pieces are sticking. I got a little stickage over here. A little bit's okay. There, we're rocking. There we go. So I've got a couple more pieces. Oh, I chopped a bunch of beets today, and I guess it stained I didn't even notice, but it stained my cutting board, and some of my tofu has turned pink. Quick cooking tip. If you wanted your tofu to be solid pink, you can just put a beet, chop up a beet and put it in water, take the beet out, use it for whatever you want to cook with. Use that water to soak your tofu or to cook your rice or whatever you want to turn pink, and it will turn it pink. And that doesn't really impart a beet flavor that much onto whatever you're cooking. And it's really good for your blood too. Beet water like that, if you blend beet juice and drink it, it's very similar to like a pre-work or like an after workout drink, in that it really helps your blood flow and provide oxygen to your blood. So I like to eat beets for lunch a lot if I've done a lot of exercising or whatever I have done that day. I usually do a lot of things in the morning. So I can see, you can kind of look on the bottom of your tofu. You can see when it starts to get brown. So I can like pull this piece up right here. You can kind of see the edge turning brown. Boom, perfectly crispy right there. So that one piece, because I got all my pieces in almost at the same time, it means that all of it's ready to go. So I don't have to check all of them. I'm just going to go ahead and start very carefully flipping these. Keep in mind that the top side is still a little bit fragile and that it is soft tofu, whereas the bottom is going to be like pretty firm.
Justin, while you're flipping the tofu, there was a question from Takita. What is your favorite method of preparing beets?
My absolute favorite beet recipe is like a beet coconut curry soup. It looks so cool. It's like bright purple and creamy. The coconut makes it this lighter kind of soft purple. And then it's almost like a mind trick also. I really like kind of things that trick your mind in terms of cooking. You look at it and you're like, oh wow, like that's a pretty pink soup sauce that also has this white, I like to put a white, kind of like almost a coconut yogurt type of thing that I make with cashews and coconut swirled onto the top and made look really pretty. So you're like, oh, what, this is like maybe dessert, because it's this beautiful, soft, pink purpley color with a little white drizzle, like maybe it's some kind of mousse or something, but then it's actually this like vibrant, rich curry dish. My other favorite thing to do with beet, like water or just a little bit beet puree, is to mix it with a vegan sour cream or normal sour cream. And that is like an awesome mind trick on people, because it turns like this bright, almost like icing pink. So if you take that and put it on something, it looks so sweet. And I've done this trick on people where I'll take that, people that tell me they hate beets and it tastes like beets. And I'll give it to them, and I swear every time they say it tastes like strawberries or cherries or like, something sweet, this dessert, and then I'll be like, no, that is sour cream with beets. And then they'll realize it and be like, holy smokes, it really does taste like beets and sour cream, but I just didn't even think about it. So kind of crazy how the mind works in that way, associating colors with different tastes. Find that color and the way things look is actually your very first step in digestion. You ever, of course, everybody's heard of the saying like, oh, like that looks so good, I'm salivating. Well, that's actually your first step in digestion. When you salivate, you're producing amylase, which is going to be the first thing that reacts with chewing the food and breaking down carbs into like perfectly digestible nutrients. So when you say eat with your eyes, that is a real deal. And when we're cooking at AMOR for people that have compromised immune systems, and also with cancer, you have a lot of taste bud altering. Your taste can go away. Things can taste metallic. Maybe everything just tastes putrid, like raw meat. Or acids and vinegars are repulsive, but sweet things are amazing. So those like little mental flips where you can make things look amazing can flip the switch in your mind so that it wakes up your taste buds. Because that's a real thing, like waking up your taste buds. If you look at something, a lot of normal dishes will just be brown. Brown's one of the most ate colors because of meat. But when you're looking at something that's vibrant and beautiful and initiates first that mental and salivating process, that can change someone's life in terms of not being able to eat and then finally being able to eat something again. So,
Justin, we can't see you. There you are.
Okay, perfect. So my tofu is ready. Everybody should be about ready. I'm going to take all this out and put it on my plate here. So if you have a paper towel, you can totally put it on top of a paper towel to help soak up a little bit of that oil that's in your pan. You want to turn that heat off of your pan though immediately, because we're going to use this same exact pan and this oil that's in the pan to cook our stir fry. And these should be coming out like nice and firm, not really like breaking up so much. So that's my tofu. And crispy, not too crispy, not too hard, but not too soft, like perfect, where you get a nice crunch on the outside, but the inside will be nice and tender.
Iris,
I'm just gonna take all this.
Justin, Iris, excuse me, Iris has a question and so do I. I don't think I had my heat high enough because it's not brown. Iris, is that your question?
Okay, so
yours didn't get brown yet? Yeah.
okay, so just if yours is not that brown yet, have you flipped it at all? Have you flipped your tofu?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So just give it a little bit more time. That's okay. Mine, I cook tofu in this pan on this heat all the time. So it's pretty like automatic for me to know like the perfect temperature. Especially if it's electric. It's like frying things in a frying pan, the temperature turns off and then cuts back on electric.
Yes.
So the oil will kind of like dissipate and then come back up. So it's just going to take a little bit more time. That's totally cool. So just wait on it to turn that perfect brown. It's even like your tofu might be ever so slightly different than mine. I find that reading recipes or following like me right now, if you don't hit the perfect mark that the recipe or like what I say, then it's like, oh man, like did I do something wrong? Like is it okay? But really, you're still cooking yourself. You got it. You already know that it wasn't done because it's not that perfect brown. So just wait on it to turn that brown color, and then take it out. Yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I'm gonna drink some tea for a second because talking is a toll. How's everyone else's tofu? Kind of like take a little breather break to let everybody get up to the same level on finishing up the tofu process. Cool. Got one person still cooking tofu. I'm reading the chat right now. Recipe for the beet soup. I got it. I was working on that one today, actually. Beet soup, as well as roasted beet hummus. That was two of the recipes I was working on today.
Should we turn the heat
Okay,
off
cool.
when we finish the tofu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because so the next step is basically going to be getting all the ingredients chopped and ready for the stir fry. The thing about stir fry is that it is fast. It's very fast. All the stuff we've done so far is the longest part of and then chopping, but the actual cooking of the stir fry is an extremely fast process because, and you have to have everything ready. So we chop all of our ingredients up and then we're going to saute on a high heat. Gotta have everything ready because it's going to be high heat. We're going to do onions, brown them, garlic, and then throw in the rest of our veggies, stir them up on this high heat, really get them going. And right before they get to a soft texture, stir fry, you want to have some texture to it. So you have this like freshness as well as cooked element in your terms of your vegetables. Then you pour your sauce in. And when you pour the sauce in, it only takes about 30 seconds to finish. So the cooking process of the stir fry is really like more like a 5 to 10 minute process. But the preparation beforehand is what kind of takes a little bit more time, obviously. So is anybody still cooking tofu before we start chopping some veggies? Okay. Let's move on. So do a little chopping demo.
Justin, I think you got muted. Oh, wait, I did.
Somehow I went into safe driving mode. What does that mean? What the heck?
We hear you, but we don't see you.
I went into safe driving mode. I mean, safe driving mode. How do I get out of it? I've never had this happen.
Lock your phone, and then when you go to unlock it, it'll like ask you, are you still driving? And you can click I'm not driving, and then you're out of it.
Not working.
That's all I got.
There we go. Oh. There we go.
Okay.
Yay!
All right, we're good. So in terms of cooking, chopping up our veggies, let's start with the garlic. So you've got your garlic here. We've got 2 cloves of garlic. The first thing we're going to do is smash them. So the way to smash them, don't set it up flat like this and try to press. You want to use the tip of your knife as your fulcrum point for smashing like this. And we'll use the tip of our knife in all of our chopping. When you have a point of contact with your cutting board like this, when you're chopping, you have also a point of reference for movement. Whereas if you're just in the air chopping like this, you can go anywhere and you have a much higher chance of cutting yourself or cutting irregular sizes in your veggies. So I'm going to put the tip of my knife down, put it on top of my garlic, and then smash it. So when I do that, it breaks up the skin and it comes off that easy instead of trying to peel all the skin off and then fine chop it. So I got that piece. I'm going to do the exact same. So tip down. This is a learning process in the kitchen all the time, is to do the same thing every time. Don't go back to this after you've learned how to do the new way. So put the tip down, smash it. And also, if you want to notice, when you smash it, if you look at your cutting board, or if you look at this, it has all the oil from the garlic is starting to come out. So that's that enzymic process starting to happen in there. So you want to take and cut off the top of the garlic right here. That is a little bit bitter. So we want to cut that out. And then I'm just going to give this a little rough chop. So same, I'm going to put the tip down like this. I'm going to use a claw finger. This is a technique for not cutting your fingertips. So basically you want to take and put your hand down like this so that you can use your knuckle as a guide for chopping like this.
Justin, can you move away from the camera a little bit? Yeah.
So take your knuckles and put them down like this. And then you can use that as a guide instead of going like this and trying to hold whatever you're cutting in place while staying away from your fingers. So in that, I've got both my pieces of garlic. I'm going to put my fingers on them. And then because I've got that perfect grip, I can, and my tip down, I'm going to do the same chop little by little until I get to the end. I'm going to scrape off. And then from the opposite direction for here, I'm going to go back through, do another little chop through, and that's good. We're not trying to mince this up into an extremely small chop.
There was a question from Lori if we can use a garlic press.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I'm a fan of using tools in the kitchen. You know, some chefs or people are pretty diehard on only using a knife and like minimal kind of things, or saying that a garlic press or like a hand chopper even is lame. But why would you not? It's way easier, you know. I just don't have one. And I really love my knife. But if I did have one, maybe I would use it. Also, in terms of my kitchen, I don't really have that much space for a whole lot of extra stuff. But one day my kitchen will be massive and I'll have a huge kitchen island and I'll have all the gadgets. So next, after our garlic, we're going to do our ginger. So I really like to grate my ginger with a microplane. I find that for me, if I'm sauteing it, then it helps move the ginger flavor into the whole dish. But you can also take and chop your ginger the same way that we chopped our ginger earlier for the rice. So you want to take and cut about this much off. This is going to make about a tablespoon. Like this. Cut around the edges to get the skin off. The skin is totally edible, but it is quite bitter if you were to get a piece with just that ginger on it. And then your ginger, if it's not organic, which is pretty seldom that you ever find organic ginger at a store, you definitely don't want to eat the skin, because non-organic ginger production is pretty pesticide and like a soil nutrient addition rich. So the skin is not that great to use, because that's what's going to be touching and soaking up those things. But a place in Charleston that you can get some amazing fresh ginger is from Spade and Clover Farm, which is on Johns Island. And they sell their ginger at the downtown farmers market. And then also the James Island Farmers Market at Poorhouse on Sundays. Look them up on Instagram and give them a follow and just say, hey, I want some ginger, because their ginger is amazing. And at this time of year, in terms of staying nice and healthy, eating ginger all the time, drinking hot ginger tea, one of the best things you can do. Easiest remedy for many different illnesses. So for my ginger, I'm going to do the same thing. Put the tip down, move my ginger close, do my claw grip, and then I can do these quick chops. Boom. They're all the same size. They're equal, versus cutting like this. You might get all over the place and cut your finger or whatever. And turn these around. Same thing, tip down. And then going through chopping. And put it back in the pile. And then from there, I like to use this method where I put the tip down and then use my hand as extra pressure for these really fast small chops. You can scrape to back to the inside, get back through like that. And that size is perfectly good for what we're doing today. So you want to pour that into your container that has your, if you were on your cutting board, put that with your garlic. Those two will go into the pan at the same time. I'm thinking I want to cut each of these vegetables different. The onion, our bell pepper, and then our squash and our broccoli crown. So for the onion, I want to do it in slices, like pretty thin, long slices, because that is going to get soft and it will be something that kind of like moves in and out of other vegetables. And then say if you imagine like your broccoli, which is going to be a lot firmer, that onion is something that when you stick your fork in will come up with the broccoli. So that's a little bit depthy in terms of what you might be thinking, but that's what I'm already thinking about. is 1 forkful needs to have a little bit of everything on it. So for chopping into slices, so I don't pre-peel my onion because it's way easier to peel after you cut it, just like the garlic. So I'm going to set the onion down where I have both my root and base side down. And then I'm going to start at the back of my knife, or excuse me, start at the front of my knife like this, and then slide through. Instead of just pressing, a lot of times you'll feel the need to just take and press straight down. Pressing straight down is the hardest way to cut through something. Also, you're not really cutting it. You're just kind of like smashing it. You have a whole knife, use the knife blade to cut. So you want to start at the front tip of the knife at an angle about like this, and then just start cutting through slowly and then all the way. So when you do that, way less effort, way less chance of, also again, just like less chance of cutting yourself, because the knife is going to slide through instead of you trying to press and you get wobbly and then finally it pops through. So I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. I'm going to start at the front tip of my knife at an angle and then slide through like that. And then from there, I'm going to cut this onion in half with the base and top sticking up like this. And for this recipe, it calls for half an onion. So now that I've cut that, this top layer of onion peel comes off that easy instead of taking 5 minutes to peel all the onion skin off. Hate doing that. So you should have something about like this now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use that same cutting method where we put the tip down, and then we're going to chop at an angle like this. So maybe just like practice that feeling. You're really putting a lot of pressure into the tip of your knife. You're always putting a lot of pressure into the tip and chopping like this. So you'll take and put this sideways so that we're going to cut through the onion, and its layers will actually develop each individual slice for us. So put your tip down, got your claw grip at the top middle of the onion, and you're going to chop at an angle as if you're trying to chop through into the center of the onion. So I'm going to go like this, tip down. My tip of my knife is not moving at all. And you're looking for about this thin. Probably like, what's that, like a 1/4 inch or so? And so another thing about this is like consistency is key in terms of cutting, and then one day being able to chop fast. If you're not consistent with this same chopping motion, you're like, cutting like this or slicing or doing whatever, not being conscious or aware of your movement, you're never going to get really good and fast and efficient at chopping. So I've got a bowl here that I'm going to put all my onions in. So something you can do once you do develop how to go really fast is, instead of having my tip here, I can actually do a chopping motion like this, and you can just like, and then you have everything is the same size and done that way as well. But not try that until you've done that for a couple years. Okay, so that's our onion. That's done. We're going to, our onion and our garlic and our ginger are the first things that are going in the pan in that order: onion, and then garlic and ginger. And then after that, we're going to use our bell pepper, squash, and broccoli into the pan. So bell pepper, your normal way of cutting a bell pepper, everybody that comes to the kitchen does that. They turn it up sideways and they chop the top off, and then they throw the whole top in the trash. Unfortunately, when you do that, you lose all of this good bell pepper at the top, which is terrible and wasteful. And when you chop the top off, all the seeds inside go everywhere. So I'm going to show you a really easy, simple way to cut a bell pepper so that you don't have to worry about the seeds and you don't waste all of the top and bottom of your bell pepper. set it down flat like it just normally sits, and cut it like an apple core, like an apple with a core. So you want to cut, I'm going to do the exact, if you notice, I'm doing the exact same thing where I start at the tip of my knife and I slice down like this. Oh, wow, mine actually has another bell pepper inside. That's cool. Pretty crazy. I don't want to use it though. So you can notice, I just cut that like an apple. No seeds. Easy peasy. You got this. So you're gonna turn it sideways, do the exact same thing. No seeds. Same thing here. No seeds. And then from here, you'll do that. And then cut the bottom off. And boom, you have all of your trash, your compost right here, your seeds and your core of your bell pepper, and no waste. Boom. So for our peppers, if you've got any big, thicker white part, this part is kind of like, I would imagine it to be like fat of that you want to cut out. It tends to get really squishy when you're sauteing or frying. So we're good here. So since I've already got thin slices, a common way to cut this bell pepper without thinking about it would be to also cut it into thin slices like that, right? We don't want to do that because we've already got slices. So I want to cut this into squares. So I'm going to take my piece, chop it in half, and then same type of deal. Tip goes down, and then I'm going to cut it into squares about this size so that you get a nice big bite crunch in there. Get my bowl back out. So this bowl will be for my broccoli and my peppers and my squash. So tip down, and you're just looking to make a pretty consistent size, as close as you can. Of course, also pepper and vegetables are odd shaped, so they can't all be perfect. So same thing, I've got my tip down. I'm gonna chop through this, and then I'm gonna turn sideways, and I'm going to cut this. You notice on this cut, because of the bell pepper, I'm not just straight chopping. I'm putting my tip down. That's my point of reference, my fulcrum, and then I'm sliding through. So every time I'm putting the tip down and I'm letting the knife do the work. So my knife is not exactly like the sharpest knife. This is just my everyday kitchen knife. But even this knife, I can hold it like this. And instead of putting a ton of pressure and like being super strong and trying to just push this knife through it, I can actually take this knife, hold it real simple like this, put the tip down, and then just slide the knife through. Most everyone's knife will do that. Easy peasy. So that's our peppers. Next, we're going to do our squash. So squash is already a circle, but one circle of a squash in a stir fry is too big. So I want to cut the ends off of this. You can see I'm always using this cutting motion of slicing through things. That's just my pure habit. So for this, I want to cut it in half and then cut this into half moons. I'm just going to use half of this for myself. So I've got half this squash here, and then I just want to cut this into slices all the way across. I want these to be as uniform as possible. But when you're using the same motion like this, I'm essentially going to go like this, tip down, slicing. It's very easy to put your fingers on the back side and kind of push it through. So that's almost like a machine. And those are going to be about a 1/4 inch thick, like that. You're going to take all that, put it into your bowl with your peppers. Those go in at the same time. And then your broccoli. So broccoli, you want to cut this where it's pretty close to each crown. So I want to cut about like right here. So that's going to make like that piece. That's a pretty good sized piece. Maybe even a little bit too big, but I'm going to leave it like that. If you have a giant head of broccoli, if you want to know a really quick, fun, fast way to do it, you just put the broccoli down like this and just like chop through like that. Find any pieces that are a little too big like this. You want to chop those in half. You can. And then we're just going to take all that broccoli and put it on top of and mix in with our squash and our peppers. So I'm ready. We're all ready. We have our garlic and our ginger. We have our onions. We have our squash, broccoli, and peppers here. And then this is where we want to get our sauce back ready again. So I'm going to take my sauce. You can probably see that it's separated a little bit. I want to stir this up. Because this next couple steps are fast. Got everything ready to go right here. Next step is going to be cooking the stir fry. So the first thing is going to be to turn that same pan of oil. Make sure you have some oil left over in it and cut it onto high. But the thing is, before you hit a smoke point, we're going to be throwing in all the veggies so that they cook through. And then it's going to be a very quick process. So cut the oil on high. As soon as it is hot enough, which should be pretty quick, you want to throw in your onions. The onions, you want to wait until they're slightly translucent. So they're starting to get cooked through, but you're not trying to caramelize them. So you don't want them to turn brown. You just want them to get a little bit translucent and aromatic. And then immediately after that, you're going to throw in your garlic and your ginger. You're going to give that a stir, literally like 10, 15 seconds. And then you're going to throw in all the rest of your other veggies. Now, all those veggies with the onion and the garlic and the ginger, you want to stir it, let it sit for a second, stir it, let it sit for a second, and then you'll throw in your sauce. So the whole process is going to be about 4 minutes if you have your pan actually hot enough. So we've got about 30 seconds, 45 on onions, and then another 30 on the garlic and ginger. Probably about a minute, 2 minutes on our veggies, and then 30, 45 seconds on our sauce. So I'm going to put my camera up. I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner on high here. I've still got a good bit of oil in my pan. You can also use a fresh pan if you've got a bunch of sticky like tofu in your pan or anything like that. All right, this is perfect in terms of time too. Okay, everybody ready? So I'll just say very clear, like what I'm doing if you're over your pan getting ready to cook. Here we go. So I've got my pan on high. I'm not quite ready yet in terms of heat, but I've got my spatula ready in its position so that I can stir. I've got everything out of the way. Oh, and also you want to have your tofu to the side, and you want a plate to take it all out on, something that you're going to serve your dinner on, because the sauce in the pan needs to be taken out of the pan when it's done. If you turn the heat off, the residual heat of the pan will turn that sauce, like it'll kind of burn it and break it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and have this plate ready to go on the side for plating my food. If you also want to go ahead and get ready, you can go ahead and take your rice, put it on there. Got my plate of rice here, getting ready for dinner. Put it here, and then I can see that my oil is ready now. I'll do that water test. Perfect. You can kind of hear it sizzling. Before you toss in your onions, squeeze them up, break them up where each peel is broken apart. Give them a little toss, and then, like I said before, you want to throw these into the pan away from you. So put it close to the back of the pan and kind of pour them in like so. And then here we go. So just move these onions around. You see any that are like stuck together, each layer, you want to try and break those up. You should see them start to change color very fast. Just keep them moving around. Kind of that same mental thought as your onions. You were trying to get every single slice of the rice. You're trying to get every single slice of onion coated and cooked evenly in that oil. You leave one onion to the side or don't stir it up enough, then one onion might not be cooked through. So I am ready for my garlic and ginger. This is the fastest of the process because you don't want to burn your garlic. So I'm gonna throw in my garlic and my ginger. So this is called all the aromatics of the dish. You've got garlic, ginger, and onion. Those are those things that are exciting, bright, flavorful ingredients that you always add into raw veggie or whatnot. So I'm ready now. So that's been about 30, 45 seconds for the rest of my veggies. We got those in. Stir those up. Same thought. I'm trying to get every single vegetable coated in this oil, garlic, ginger, and onion. The more even you can get everything cooked through, the better every single bite will be. Dun, 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 dun. And it should be beautiful. You got how many colors? You got white onions, you got green broccoli, you've got yellow squash, and you've got red peppers. Kind of browning of the onion also in there too. And then your fifth and sixth color is actually going to be the white rice and your browned tofu. And then on top, we'll have our fresh cilantro to finish and sesame seeds. So variety, variety, variety. So I've got mine pretty like nice and stirred up, mixed together. So I'm going to evenly spread it on the pan and just let it sit for a second. That's going to essentially like actually give a little bit of a sear on the vegetables. About that long. So now I'm going to mix it up again. Should see a little bit of color on your squash. And your peppers will start showing color also. When I say showing color, I'm saying, I mean that the peppers and the squash are actually getting a little bit of that browning. So what is browning in a cooking process is the Maillard effect of carbohydrates turning to sugar. Or it's not sugar, excuse me. Carbohydrates turn into the very easily digestible sugars, which are really good for you. So now I'm ready for my sauce. Again, just make sure it's nice and mixed up. Make sure your heat is high. I'm going to pour this in. There's that fry sound. You know, really fast. Mix this together. Really fast. All right, and it should be close to ready right here. So I'm just kind of vigorously stirring this to try and get that sauce on every single veggie. And I'm going to turn my heat off and move my camera over.
We lost our chef, sorry. He's coming back. Are you there?
All right, here we are. And just so it should look something like this. Beautiful, saucy, soft, browning, but bright and vibrant. Your veggies and onions, or your onions should be like really soft. Your veggies will still have a little bit of texture. And you want to take that, put it on your plate, kind of beside or on top of your rice, very beautifully. About like this. And then the next step is going to be to put your tofu on top. First, you want to heat it up in your pan. I guess I cut out when I did that. You should have put your tofu in right at the end. I went into safe driving mode. But essentially,
Lori's asking, I'm sorry, Iris is asking about the cilantro.
so cilantro is just a fresh garnish on top. So this is what I'm working with so far. Then I'm going to take my fresh cilantro right here. I'm going to take a couple stems of it, like so. Break some leaves off. Put them on real pretty, like you're making the most beautiful Instagram post, or trying to trick your brain into thinking it's going to be delicious, even though it already is. If you don't like to eat whole leaf herbs like this, you can totally chop it up and sprinkle it on top. I really like the toothiness of getting whole herbs into a dish. And I think it's really pretty also. And then the last thing is some sesame seeds. So just take a little sprinkle of sesame seeds right on top. And voila. There you go.
Beautiful. Does anybody else want to show off their dish? I want to see my brother's. I'm pretty sure his girlfriend cooked the whole meal.
Well, he's
Our
lucky.
stove is still working on it. That electric eye is taking a little bit longer, so we're still working on ours.
Okay.
Awesome. Dun, dun, dun. Here's mine. How's yours, Maria?
I still have to plate mine.
Plate it up.
Okay. There's mine.
Nice. Pretty.
It smells so good. Oh, look your mom's. It looks beautiful. Awesome.
If
Chiquita?
anybody wants to chime in or show their stuff off, just take yourself off mute by clicking unmute and then show everyone and you'll pop up for everybody to see.
Oh, cool. I got me unmuted.
There you go. What's yours look like, Mom?
I can't get it angled right to where you can see it.
Well, tell Dad to be the cameraman.
All right, he's my cameraman. Well, he's trying to be anyway. It slid around. It was pretty. Okay.
It is pretty.
It's
Okay,
beautiful. Yay,
Beautiful.
Iris.
Okay.
Anybody else? Make sure you take a picture and tell everybody about how delicious and good it was. I hope. Post it up. Spread the love.
That looks good, Jeff. I see it.
You are all now officially AMOR Hilly Kitchen liaison chefs. You passed the test.
Yay!
Your mission is to go out and tell everyone about how good the food was, and then but really to really try and spread the thoughtfulness of cooking really delicious food for yourself at home. Being thoughtful of what ingredients you're using, being thoughtful of how you're chopping, every step of the process, the more presence you can bring into it, the more presence you'll be able to bring into your own life and insight of your body and your mind. Yeah, hope everybody enjoyed it.
I have a question. What's the
Yes.
difference between when I was looking at tofu, which I haven't cooked with very much? What's the difference in the firm tofu and then extra firm?
Really, I mean, literally just the firmness of it being extra firm is really good for, say, frying or anything that you don't want to fall apart as easy. They have soft tofu, which is a lot of times used more for like people will put it in shakes, smoothies as a protein addition, or put it into soups, or firm tofu being kind of like in the middle. I personally use that for, say, if I'm making like veggie scrambled eggs. You put nutritional yeast and turmeric powder and garlic and whatnot into it and crumble it up really well. And it has this consistency and look of eggs. But then firm tofu would be a little bit more firm, not as crumbly, and it wouldn't kind of like cook together in the way that an egg would cook.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But I find that firm tofu versus extra firm, also the softer it is, the higher the better it is at soaking up other flavors. So if you're like marinating and baking your tofu, a firm or a soft might be a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to get that recipe of the beet soup. I believe.
Beet soup.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that in the next cooking class.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be there.
Also, so please tell other people about our cooking classes that might want to learn how to cook some delicious food, or they've lost some passion in the kitchen. Let's get everybody back in there cooking food for themselves, fall back in love with it. Follow along with us online through our Instagram, sign up for our newsletter to find out more, and then be really excited for our guest chef series as well. I'm personally really excited to get to be with them and learn what they have to say as well. My good friend Nico Cagalan is Filipino, and he makes authentic Filipino food. It's absolutely delicious. Nico does not typically do plant-based vegan cooking. He uses tons of veggies because he's an amazing chef, but to strictly go for that for him is a little different, but he loves the idea and the challenge of doing that. And especially in terms of broadening the horizon of that. And Nico and myself will be doing a dinner at the end of the month on January 30th here in Charleston through my own personal chef business called Attoon Food. That's ATOON Food. And we'll be doing a 100% vegan plant-based dinner together as a collaboration at the end of the month, which I'm super excited for also. So really, really fun to, one, get to tell everyone in this sort of way, but also in person through showing our own food and then collaborating with someone that doesn't typically do 100% vegan food. We came up with our menu the other day and it is fire. So everybody should try and come. And then also Nico is going to come help us in the kitchen. Nico's awesome. If anybody's in Charleston and hasn't had mensuetas, that's the name it's actually his grandma's name, or maybe that means grandma in Filipino, but she taught him how to cook. And he just basically recreates her recipes in a modern manner to kind of the same, passion and message that we have at AMOR in terms of just trying to get people to fall in love with food and the dining experience and sitting with each other at the table. So follow along.
Thank you all so much. If you're on a gallery view, or if you can get yourself to a gallery view, and we can all give each other a high five, virtual high five. So fun. So fun to cook in community, and because that's what we believe is that food can bring us all together. So it was so great to have you all. We will send out the recipes that you all requested, and be on the lookout. The next community class then will be the third Monday in February. So we will see you all then. If you have any questions that came up, or that you thought of afterwards, please email me or email us or send us a message on social media, and we'd love to hear your questions or comments.
Yeah. If anybody ever has like a question of literally anything about cooking, but especially substitutions or, some kind of nutrient addition for your meals, just shoot us a message. Like you can personally do that through AMOR or through my Instagram or email, whatever way you have of contacting, or ask for a phone number or whatever. Would definitely love to spread that.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
See you soon. See you soon.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye.